Hello, Steve. Thank you for your presence here today. I really appreciate this. Um, I would like you to, if you can, like introduce yourself to the people who don't know you. A brief introduction, so people know what you do, who you are, please.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Edgar. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about my work and the stuff that I do. I'm a hypnotherapist and regression specialist. I've been a hypnotherapist for over 34 years. In that time, I've completed over 15,000 therapy sessions. And my specialism is regression, which basically means using regression in hypnosis to take my clients back to the causes of their issues in order to release the issues. And that may take them into regression into this life, it may take them into previous lifetimes, and it may take them into their ancestors' lives in order to clear their issues. So that's the work that I do. I had 3 books published about my work, and I'm always very happy talking about the stuff that I do because I believe it's so important for people to understand that therapy can be very beneficial, and also that regression therapy is, in my opinion, the deepest form of therapy that we have on planet Earth.
What books are those? Because I only know two.
Okay. My first one was called Famous Past Lives, which was about some of my clients who appear to have been very famous in past lifetimes, in their past lives. My second book was The Power of Past Life Regression, and this was about just generally client cases over the years, how past life regression has healed their issues and their stories of the past lives. And my new book came out last year. That's The Adventures of a Hypnotherapist, which is a little bit more quirky because in this book I talk about some of the more unusual aspects of regression, including alien abduction regression, taking my clients back who appear to have had extraterrestrial contacts, spirit release therapy, as well as some of the more unusual and even funny experiences I've had over my career. And so people are saying really nice things about the latest book. They seem to be enjoying it.
How long have you written that book? Because that one I haven't read yet.
It came out last April, just over a
Okay,
year
okay, so
ago.
it's
Oh,
recent.
last May.
I've seen some videos of you about aliens and stuff like this. I read a few books on this subject, past lives and hypnosis, but I never heard no one talk about it. It was very interesting. Later, I'm gonna ask you more about that. But for someone who's listening to this, like the first time, this may seems a little bit like crazy. How did you start it? Because in the beginning, everybody's ascetic, right? How did you
Yes.
start it? How did you start to gradually what to probably you there was the first time you go through some experience that you said, hey, I wasn't expecting this widened my perspective on life or what it is, what are we doing here? How did it
Yeah.
begin for you? How was your attitude in the beginning? Did you know what to expect? Or you just were like, you just started fresh and we'll see?
Well, I began life as what I call a bulk standard hypnotherapist, a standard hypnotherapist, and within hypnotherapy, the basic way of using hypnotherapy is to use what we call post-hypnotic suggestion therapy. What that means is that when I guide them into trance, into a gentle hypnotic state, the subconscious mind, the deeper mind, becomes more open to suggestion. And then the aim of the therapist is to feed the subconscious mind with powerful suggestions to help the person to change. If a client is carrying anxiety, then I'll feed suggestions about feeling more relaxed and feeling more calm. If the client wants to stop smoking, then I'll tell them that they're no longer a smoker, that now they are free of cigarettes, etc. And the idea behind that is that the subconscious then is influenced by those suggestions and the client starts to change. Often we also use metaphors and we use visualizations as well. So, standard hypnotherapy can be very creative. But it's often, in all honesty, not deep enough and it's not as powerful for everybody, as most hypnotherapists would like us to believe. But that's what I used to do day after day for, maybe best part of a year or so in my early career. And then one day everything changed, quite dramatically changed, when a young man came to me for therapy who was in his early 20s. And he had a very, very severe anxiety state. And even now, after 34 years, it was probably the most severe anxiety state that I've ever seen. And he sat in front of me in my office and was just a bag of nerves. He was shaking, he was hyperventilating. As he was talking to me, he was stammering and stuttering his words. He couldn't relax. He was looking all over the place. And he was in a bad way. And he obviously came to me for help. And he said, "Well, you're my last hope. I've been like this for years." He said, "I've always been a worrier. Even when I was a child, I was a worrier. I always was bothered about things." But he said, as I've got older, the anxiety has been stronger and stronger. Since the children came along a few years ago, it's got even worse. And now it's there 24 hours a day. I've had to give my job up. I can't work. I sit at home all day shaking. I've tried everything. My doctors give me tablets. They've made me worse, which they often do, actually. Anti-anxiety tablets can often make things worse. And my wife's sick of it. My wife said if I don't get better, she'll divorce me. She can't. Don't have a life anymore. So I thought, okay, I'll do my best here. And I just guided him into trance, into a gentle hypnotic state. And he relaxed beautifully. And one of the main elements of trance is relaxation. Remember when we go into hypnosis, we know everything that's happening. We're not in a sleep. We're not under anesthetic. We're just in an inner state. But most people relax when they're in a gentle trance. He relaxed beautifully. And I thought, well, this is great. I'm going to just feed his mind with post-hypnotic suggestions about being more calm. And I was reading the suggestions and coming up with suggestions about him letting go of the old anxiety. And he was in such a deep trance. I thought, this is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. He was so relaxed. And then after about 10 or 15 minutes, all of a sudden, he completely changed. And he suddenly became very tense. His whole body went stiff. And in the chair, he started to move around like this, and he's looking around. And then he started to speak. He started to sort of half shout and half whisper. And bear in mind, I'm sitting there with this man just resting in the chair, just reading suggestions to him. And the next thing, he's shaking and he's saying, "No, no, 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 hide! Quickly, quickly, hide the children. They're looking, they're coming, quickly. In here, quickly. Shh, hide, be quiet, quiet." And he was quiet for about 10 seconds. And then all of a sudden, he started to scream and writhe at the top of his voice. "No, no, 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 not the children. No, 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 please, no, no, no. Ah!" And he just flopped down in a heap in the chair. And it was 100 times bigger than that, Edgar. I mean, it was just a massive, he was screaming and writhing. And I'm sitting there, my heart is beating. And he was just then completely flopped down in the chair, completely still. So I said, what was happening there? He said, it was weird. And he was laid there with his eyes closed, still in trance. He said, it was weird. I was like a man in another body, in another time. My family, there were soldiers trying to find us. They were coming for us. Nazi soldiers. And I was hiding with them. And then they found us and they shot us all and killed us all. What's that about? He said, what was going on? So I knew about past lives, of course, because I've been a Buddhist for many years before that. I knew very much about reincarnation, but I wasn't trained and never did past life regression with any of my clients. And I said, well, you've been in a past life. How do you feel? He said, I feel wonderful. I feel absolutely wonderful. He said, I feel so relaxed. I have never felt this calm in my life, ever. And his anxiety issue, Edgar, was cleared and released in like 15 minutes. And I thought, why don't I know about this? This is so powerful. So I knew about past life regression, but very few people in the early 1990s were doing it, especially in the UK, hardly anybody. So I managed to get information from the USA, from the American Past Life Regression Association, started to add it into my work. And then over the years, I've developed a regression system which is so powerful. I teach it to therapists all around the world in terms of how to use hypnotherapy in a regressive way in order to release issues that clients have. But that was the very first time, and it absolutely shocked the hell out of me and proved to me that I needed to do something differently. And as I started to do more and more regression, I started to get even deeper and even better results for my clients. And so for me, I still say nowadays that regression therapy, especially past life regression, whether a person wants to believe in past lives or not, it doesn't matter. They can still get better. I still say it's the most powerful form of therapy on earth.
Yeah, from what I've read from other authors also, yeah, because people that write books, they do this for a while, and most of them, they was like an accident. They say go to the cause of the problem, and when they notice they are not in this life,
Yeah.
it was somewhere else. They were used to taking them to traumas on their present life, and then suddenly they were describing an ancient scene. I already tried to do this twice, but I failed. I'm not sure if I'm very easy to hypnotize, but I really would like to. I don't know if it's possible. Do you ever had any client that was not able to get under like hypnosis at the first try and later they succeeded or not?
Yeah. First of all, not everybody can regress, and that's quite frustrating. Most people can in different ways, and I'll explain that in a few moments. I mean, but everybody can go into trance. Everybody can go into hypnosis as long as they are mentally normal. I mean, somebody who is psychiatrically challenged, who is insane, they're already in a trance, but we can't treat those sort of people. But anybody, we all go into trance because a trance is an inner state of inner focus. And for example, daydreaming is trance. That's hypnosis. Driving on automatic pilot in the car, that's hypnosis. When we don't realize we're driving, that's hypnosis. When we're drifting into sleep, when we're drifting out of sleep, when we're watching a movie, that's trance. When we're reading a book, whenever we're focusing on something. So trance is a natural process. However, some people find it a little bit difficult to touch into to a deeper state of trance. But most people can go into trance. Now, often, if a client can't get into regression the first time, it may be it's just too big an experience for them the first time. The mind is too busy and they're too nervous and they're wanting to know what's going on. And that can get in the way. And so it may be that a person needs to practice trance. It may be a person needs to practice going into trance a few times before they come back for a second session. Because what a lot of people are expecting to be asleep or to be in a coma state or to be under anesthetic, and you use the word under. With regard to hypnosis, you don't go under anything. You go into trance. You don't go under relaxation, you go into relaxation. So the conscious mind is still working all the time. And a lot of people, when they're in trance, don't realize they're there because they expect not to be able to think. That they're just going to be laying there with their eyelids closed and the tongue hanging out and dribble coming down the side of the chin, not knowing what the hell is going on. And of course, that isn't hypnosis. Hypnosis is just an inner state of inner focus, which tends to be a relaxed state as well. So some people who are in trance don't realize that they're there. But for some people, the first session can be a bit much. And what I have is I have a YouTube channel, which I have free hypnotherapy recordings on. And I sometimes like my clients to play some of those recordings, audio recordings, where I just guide them into trance and you just listen to my voice and relax, etc., or imagine being in a nice place. Um, if they practice those first, they tend to be a little bit more used to doing some hypnosis before they come to see me. Having said that, some people are what we call non-visual. And what that means is that quite often, many regression therapists will try to take the client back into the past by using a visualization, by imagining yourself going back in a time machine, for example, or whatever. But if you're unable to visualize, you can't see that. So you can't get back into the past. So what I've done, I've created a technique of working with people who are non-visual, where we regress them back, what I call kinesthetically. And what this means is that they go back physically, energetically, and they don't have to see anything in the past life, but they will feel the past life instead. And so they can still be in a past life and re-experience a life. They may not see what's happening, may not know what's happening, but their body will experience it. And from a regression therapy perspective, that's most important because in regression therapy, what we're aiming to do is to release the traumas from the past that are causing the problems now. And so that may mean going back into something where, like a death in a past life, where you were killed in some way, and releasing the fear and the anxiety, releasing the energies in the body that have been brought through from the past life to now. And that can be done without seeing it at all. It can be done through just releasing it by feeling it. So oftentimes, a lot of therapists are a bit limited. They just try to work visually. And if you're not visual, then it ain't going to work for you.
What you said just ring a bell for me because actually I really have difficulty visualizing anything. And also I think is more like maybe maybe also like afraid of losing the control, I guess, because I like to be in control of myself. So I
Yeah,
I don't let go of that easily.
that's his
And
op.
I had experience where I should have like visualization of stuff, and I only like had feelings. So
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
that's my
yeah. So that
difficulty.
that probably is the block, and yeah, that's probably the block as much as anything else.
That's too
So
bad.
well,
That's too bad
it,
because I would love to see, because for me, I
of
like
course,
history, so I like to get back in time. I
of
love
course.
like a time machine.
Yeah, and
Would
I
be
mean,
so.
all my books, I write about my clients' visual experiences. So if they're in a past life, they're saying, I am walking down a cobble street, I am seeing horses and carts, I am seeing this, which is always fascinating and interesting, and easy, really. But I can't write books about people who just lay there and move and cry.
Exactly, exactly, exactly.
So,
In this, like the subject of history, what was the oldest past life that you recall, like having someone remembered?
I've certainly had clients very occasionally go back into, you can say, prehistoric past lives, like Neanderthal past lives, where people were not really having a proper language facility and not able to speak fully and lots of grunts and things, very basic. So you would say prehistory. That's very unusual, but it occasionally will happen that a client will go back that far. As a general rule, most clients go back to past lives in the last 10,000 years. Occasionally, again, I have clients who appear to go back into past lives in Atlantis. And of course, Atlantis may have been, well, who
Yeah,
knows,
exactly.
20,000 years ago. We don't really know. But certainly, I've had clients who have gone back before the last 10,000 years. The vast majority of past life sessions are in the past 10,000 years.
So those ones that are older, like Atlantis, for instance, they cannot in any way like give you a time frame. It's too complicated, right?
They just can't. Well, the thing is, times are strange because you see, the subconscious mind doesn't really know time because there is no such thing as time. Time really doesn't exist. We put time on consciously on everything, but everything just is. So, of course, the subconscious doesn't know times. So sometimes the subconscious struggles to. I can even ask my client's subconscious when they're in trance, to give me some idea of the dates. And sometimes they get it right, and sometimes they can't get it right at all. Um, yeah.
From what
So
I've read, like outside of this physical, like world, there's no time. It's not a concept we can like, at least linear, right?
That's it.
From
Yeah.
what I've read, supposedly, right?
Well, and
uh,
it's a very complicated thing. Some people think time is just circular, and some people say everything is happening right now at the same time.
exactly. Yeah.
Nobody
We,
knows. It's as
yeah,
complex as hell.
exactly, exactly.
But in therapy sessions, the subconscious treats time as if it is linear. So, we go back in a linear way. Yeah, but the time is a complicated thing, and I don't think any of us can really come to terms with it.
There's also a weird thing I read a few times that is future lives. Have you ever had an experience with that? Then you
Yeah,
can relate, because I've read a few and I've seen in other like, not hypnosis, but other people that do like, Bob Monroe? He wrote some books about astral projection. Okay, right. So I'm not gonna mention this, but like they go out of their bodies and they have experience, and some may be in the future, and there is like a correlation, or at least a similarity between that and some other people I've read books on hypnosis. So I was curious if you had one or two or whatever, and what
yeah.
did they experience in the future, and how much in the future do they tell it is, if they
Yeah.
say a date.
Certainly, there's one hypnotherapist in the UK who specializes using future life progression, as it's called, FLP, as a therapy. And she's a very good therapist, very experienced with it. I don't use FLP as a therapy, but I used to play around with it as an interest. And many years ago, I used to do past life regression group workshops where I'd have a group full of people. I'd take them all into trance together, guide them all back into their own individual past lives, and they wouldn't be talking about them, but they'd be experiencing the past lives and seeing things, and then coming out of trance, and afterwards they share what they had in their own individual past life. I did a lot of these and got a bit bored, so I started to do past and future life workshops, where we do a past life group workshop, and then we do a future life, take the group into a future lifetime. And I used to aim to take them, think it was 300 and 500 or 800 years into the future. What actually happened in a lot of those, when the people in the sessions and the workshops were sharing what they experienced in their future life, in my workshops, a lot of people were saying really horrible things about the future, which is to come. And they were saying things like, there's been massive wars, and there's, 300 years' time, there's not that many people alive on Earth anymore. And there's no spirituality. We're all living underground. You can't go out into the sun because the radiation is so strong. If you go out into the sunshine for long, you'll get radiation sickness and die. It's just like Mad Max, it's just sort of a dystopian future. And not everybody was reporting that, but most people on the workshops were reporting pa- future lives to be really unpleasant. And I actually got really depressed with it, because I thought, hang on, I thought we were at the start of the age of Aquarius, where everything's going to be love and light, and, spirituality, and people going to be much more loving and caring. So I actually stopped doing those workshops because I didn't feel comfortable. But also, there's no way of proving whether it's real or not. That was the other thing. At least with a past life, sometimes you can prove that the past life is real. But with the future, it seemed to be a little bit too unreal. And so I stopped doing the workshops. But I had colleagues who also were doing future life workshops. And I mentioned it to one or two of them, and they said, well, our people on our workshops got completely the opposite, Burgess. It's fantastic in 300 years' time. It's love and light, and everybody's loving each other, and we've developed telepathy. And I'm thinking, well, hang on. Why are your people getting that and my people are getting the shitty stuff? And, is it just that they're reflecting that I'm a miserable bugger, and, and so they're picking up on my energies, or something else? So It just all felt a little bit too unreal to me, and so I really stopped doing it. So, to answer your question, yes, I've done future life stuff. I'm not sure how much I trust it, though, compared with
Mhm.
how much I trust, past lives.
But were the earlier timelines worse than the further timelines, or there's
I think
no
it was much the
difference?
same. It was much the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, from what I've seen, it was like in the beginning, from now on, maybe like it's bad, but then like 1,000 years from now, a lot less people, but a lot calmer and like it's good.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
well,
These things, of course, is always
I
very
would
suspicious. It's like having, I think, it's like having, how you say, psychedelic experience. Your mind is influencing the result. You
yeah.
may be manifesting in your mind whatever you want to believe or whatever you suspect, or if you see one person having a bad trip, maybe that will affect the next person, then the next person. So
Of
it's very
course.
unreliable.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. But that's it. That's very interesting. Like the future life is like is very, I
Well,
say,
you see,
unusual
another way
and
of looking at it, I mean, Dolores Cannon, of course, the great American regression therapist. I mean, um, she believed that towards the end of her life that there was going to be a progression in the future where it's like the earth would split and different energies would come through. So some people would move into positive timelines and some people would move into negative timelines. It may be that if that's the case, that a lot of my people were experiencing what they will experience in the future in their negative timeline.
what do you think about that? Because of course I've heard these spiritual people talk about this kind of, "Oh, no, it's gonna be good." I don't know. I
I
have
don't
to
know.
see it to believe it. I'm always skeptic, but
And I'm the same. I'm very skeptical about stuff. I mean, my dad was a scientist, so I've been brought up to be skeptical. But it's difficult to say. And also, I keep saying, look, for me, I'm a therapist, and my role is to help people get better. It isn't to try to prove this or to
exactly.
prove that. It's actually to use therapy techniques to help people to get better now. Because if we are healed in ourselves now, our lives now will change. And that therefore means that our future life will change as well. Because all the time we're carrying emotional baggage inside us, it stops us from being free and living freely and to, create a more positive energy in the world.
Yeah, that's it. I think for me is I hope for the best, prepare for the worst, but I really don't think much about it. Just live my life happily and peacefully, and when problems come, we take care of it because
Well,
why live?
I think the most for me the highest spiritual philosophy on earth is non-duality. Is that everything just is. And non-duality says, there's no good, there's no bad, there's no right, there's no wrong. There just is. And if everything just is, then when we just live our lives and just be with everything that's happening, life, I think, is much easier.
I think for me, I only think that is important is to think that there is like a purpose for this all, and I don't have to know what it is. I just do my best. I cannot live. I say I have to figure out what's good or bad for me. Cannot live like Buddha and accept everything is like it is. But I'll do my best, and when time comes, I hope I'll be happy with my
Yeah,
performance, so to
yeah,
speak, and then
absolutely.
we'll see.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
If
yeah.
I don't think about too much, I don't. I say I don't stress it because most of the things are outside of my hands anyway.
That's the way to
So,
be.
another question about like the mind and body connection. I know there is a mind and body connection because we have like the placebo effect and the nocebo effect. Although this is not very well studied because there's no money on it, right? You cannot, how do you say, your work, for instance, you cannot make a factory of Steves and like make it cheap and sell it expensive, so this is not something that is very there's no money in it. They're not going to study this so soon, I think. But do you seen any like real effects of physical effects in the body of someone after after therapy with you or with some of your colleagues?
Well, let me just take a step back before and mention, talk about it in a slightly different way. So the regression concept, the model of regression therapy, is that all of our issues as human beings come from locked in feelings and emotions from past traumas. And that's all of our issues. Depression, anxiety, lack of confidence, sexual issues, skin problems, cancer, physical problems, you name it. Every issue that we have as human beings in some way has got an emotional trauma in there or emotional traumas at the heart of it. And this is certainly the case with physical issues. And I've specialized for years working with physical issues with my clients. Every physical issue has emotional causes. And if we're able to heal and open up the emotional cause to a physical issue, then it can get better. Now, of course, the medical model doesn't want to look at this. It doesn't want to look at this, partly because it doesn't make any money for big pharma and the drug companies. Partly, also, my belief is that big pharma and the ruling elites want to keep us ill as much as possible. And so, of course, the medical model is about keeping people ill so that they can keep taking the tablets and taking the drugs. Doctors nowadays are not trained to look at diet and emotional factors and lifestyle factors. They are just trained to say, you have a problem, Mr. Patient, I'll give you this tablet or whatever. I mean, it's a bit general, but that's generally the case. In therapy, we're looking at the emotional traumas. So let me give you an example just from recently. I've had a client, and bear in mind I do all my sessions online nowadays. I have clients in 31 countries around the world now. And I do all of my sessions online because they're just as effective as one-to-one in-house sessions. And I had a lady who was from Sierra Leone. And for most of her life, she'd been brought up to believe that, and she probably still does, that past lives is evil because she was brought up as a Christian, and she heard people would say, "Oh, that stuff's terrible. It's all evil. It's all of the devil." But she's done a bit of reading and a bit of searching around, and she started to think what she's been taught is actually not true. And she came to me with a stomach pain problem. And she's had stomach pains for 36 years, since she was 10 years old. 36 years. Every day of her life. At times, the pain in some days is as high as 8 out of 10, if you were to score it between 0 and 10. At best, on a good day, the pain would only be 4 out of 10. And she's had this for 36 years. She's tried everything, tried to change different diets, cut out different foods. She's had all tests for other medics. They can't find anything wrong. And she comes to me for therapy, and her subconscious shows that the cause of the stomach pain are 3 past lives, 3 different past lives. And in our first session, we went into the first past life, where she relived a life as a young Chinese girl who is sold into slavery by her brother, her wicked brother. She gets thrown onto a slave ship, and below decks, it's horrific. You know, there's hundreds of people in the slave ship. There's hardly any food. They're all starving. They're all sick. They're dehydrating. It's it's terrifying, of course. She's a young 8-year-old girl. And of course, in the regression session, this lady was experiencing the trauma. She was feeling the feelings, the horror of it all. This poor little girl was terrified, and she was sick, and her stomach was hurting, and then she was starving. And then she died of, I would guess, malnutrition and dehydration and sickness, as a result of all this. And we finished the session. Now, my client was really shocked. I mean, she's a lady who doesn't really believe in past lives, and she would never have come up with that sort of experience. But she was pleased to have had it. She felt better at the end of the session. 4 weeks later, I saw her for a second session. The stomach pains had been completely gone. She hadn't had a single episode of stomach pain since that session. We then did a second session where she was a young teenage boy who gets drafted into a militia, has to go into battle and gets speared in the stomach and dies. So again, she released the terror and the horror of that. And her third session is coming up in the next few weeks, so I haven't finished working with her. But we'll completely clear that problem. That problem will be completely cured as a result of working with these 3 past lives. I had a lady in West Palm Beach, where I am at the moment in Florida, who's been coming for therapy. And her back pain, which she's had for several years, and severe back pain, is coming from traumas in this life, from some past lives, and from some ancestral trauma. Something she's inherited it from her ancestors. And I saw her last week, and after I think we've done 4 sessions, and the back pain is 70 to 80% better. It's already been reduced by up to 80%, and we've still got more to do, but we'll continue working until we've released all the emotional trauma. In my second book, The Power of Past Life Regression, I write about a young 13-year-old boy who had migraines, severe migraines, and he was getting migraines every few weeks. He was missing a lot of school. He was a very intelligent lad, and his mum brought him and said, "Can you help him?" Now, my experience with migraines, I didn't tell him this before the therapy. I didn't even talk about past lives. I rarely do. It's about talking about the emotional causes of the problem. But my experience is that usually migraines are caused by deaths in past lifetimes where there have been blows to the head. And his mum sat in on the session. She wanted to be in on the session. He was only 13, and, she has a right to be on the session if she wants to be. But I guided him into trance, and his subconscious indicated there were 8 past lives causing the migraines. Now, this is a 13-year-old boy from a very middle-class English background who didn't know the first thing about reincarnation, but his subconscious, because I use a technique whereby the subconscious tells me things without the client having to speak. It told me 8 past lives, and he went into all 8 past lives in one session, in just over an hour. And he went into the first past life. I can't remember them all now, but it was something like he went into the first past life, and he was a man in the past life, standing in his garden, and he just found out that his wife was having an affair with his best friend, and he was really sad and angry. But his wife came up behind him with a big spade and smashes him round the back of the head with the spade, and he dies. And then he went straight into the next past life, where he was in a bar, and somebody started a fight with him, and they punched him and then started to kick him in the head. And he went into the next past life, where he was a boy at school who kicked the school bully, and the school bully grabs hold of him and starts smashing his head into the wall, and he dies on the way to hospital. And he went into the next past life, where I think he was in battle, and somebody came at him with an axe and smashed him in the head. And he went into the next past life, where he was driving a car in the 60s without a seatbelt, and the car was smashed into by a lorry, by a truck, and his head smashed into the steering wheel, and he died. And he went into the next past life, where he was an old man falling off some ladders and landed on his head, dead. He just did this in just over an hour. And he came out of trance, and I mean, he felt great. I turned around to look at his mum, and his mum was just sitting there like that. She just couldn't believe what she'd seen. His migraines were cured. They were 90% cured. She came back a few months later. There was a little bit more work needed to be done, but within 2 sessions, he was completely cured. Now, okay, some people need a lot of sessions. You'd never know how many sessions a person will need. Some people might need 10 or 20 or more sessions, but some people, hypnotherapy or regression therapy tends to be a radical therapy, and it works faster than most other, than traditional therapies. So going back to, it's a long-winded way of answering your question. Does this
No,
work with
that's okay.
physical issues? Yes, it damn well does work with physical issues. And if people don't work on the emotional causes of their issues, the chances are they're going to come back, or they'll come out in a different way. So you may think you take a tablet for something, um, and it gets something better, but if you haven't released the energies, it may come out in a different way.
See, normally you're just normal life, day life. If you don't deal with your problems, they normally tend to manifest in some way. If it's not psychological, it'll be physical. And I can
Yes.
imagine that they have something that they build up on their past lives and especially in the death. But do they have to take care of that, how do you say, deal with that trauma here? Yeah, that trauma, that 8 past lives or 9 or whatever. You deal with here to today. Maybe in the future he's gonna go to another life. Do you think that is taken care of?
Yes. Yeah. So if you don't deal with your stuff now, there's a chance you'll take it with you to your to your next lifetime. And so deal with it now. I mean, I talk such a lot about doing the work now. We're lucky that therapy is available to help you to heal, especially regression therapy. So why not heal your stuff now? It makes you this life a better place to live, but it also, the chances are it will release it for your future lifetimes as well. So I'm a great believer in that.
What do you think is, we don't know, but your opinion, of course. What's the purpose of this? Being here different times. What's the purpose of this whole?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's an esoteric question, really. We don't truly know. I mean, even the concept of reincarnation, it has been questioned in recent years whether we need to reincarnate. So, the traditional viewpoint of reincarnation is that we, as a soul, are reborn many, many lifetimes, probably thousands of lives, in order to grow as a soul and to learn different things, so that as we grow, we move on up to higher and higher sort of energies, you could say, or vibrations in the spiritual framework. And that's the traditional viewpoint. There is a viewpoint which I know even now David Icke, for example, has jumped on the bandwagon with, that we don't have to reincarnate, so that it's just a big trap.
Mhm.
And that viewpoint is that as a soul, we are perfect. As a sovereign being in the universe, we are perfect. So why do we need to learn anything? And what that viewpoint is that reincarnation is a trap, and basically there are beings or entities or extraterrestrials that want us to keep reincarnating down here on planet asylum. I call it planet asylum because
Exactly.
it's like we live
Exactly.
in an asylum in order to continually experience pain and fear because they feed off that fear energetically. And so there is this school of thought. But again, that's a theory. Nobody truly knows. So these are esoteric questions. And I think for me, I keep going back to the plain fact that if we can make our life here better now in this life, we become more balanced. And therefore, when we are more balanced as individuals, the world becomes more balanced. Also, I know from my practice many years ago as a Buddhist, the mind at the time of death is a very important state. And if when we die, our mind is all over the place, if reincarnation is a trap, we are more likely to be grabbed and sent back down. Whereas, if our minds are more calm and more balanced, either as a result of intense spiritual practice and intense meditation, or as a result of releasing our emotional baggage, we are more able at the time of death to choose where we go because we're not panicking. So I say I don't think we don't know. But for me, it's about what I do know is that helping a client and ourselves to become more balanced now is very, very important. Not just from my client's perspective, but I think from the perspective of the collective and the collective unconscious.
I see kindness in people every day. So for me, it's curious. I see the beauty in the world. I see the kindness in people. That's what I see. I've been in a lot of places. I've met a lot of people,
Yeah.
but we have a sick society, basically. Bad incentives, to, we are in a bad structure. That's what
Well,
it is because we have to
I,
ignore human suffering to be happy. So this is
It's
sick. I
extraordinary,
don't.
isn't it? In 10,000, I mean, we've been around for longer than 10,000 years, but in 10,000 years of recorded history, we're still living in an asylum. Nothing has changed. We're still killing each other. People are still going to war and causing brutality. Uh, but like you, this people are nice people. The vast
In
majority
general, yeah, yeah. It's
are
difficult to
kind,
find someone who's
nice.
like a psychopath.
It's the psychopaths are the rulers. How on
Exactly.
earth can anybody who rules a country or a society send other people to go and die and go and kill other people? You must be a psychopath to want to tell people to kill other people. I
I
mean,
think the how you say, the role itself self selects people that are willing to do that kind of stuff, and there is no system that punish them, right? And in fact, there is rewards for that, and this is based on money, and money to be used has got to be scarce. So just that alone, you have to fight with not fight, compete with other people for money. In fact, you are competing for resources basically, but
yeah,
they print the money. For
yeah,
them, it's about the power. It's not about the money. For
I
us, it's about the money, but it's
I agree. And
creates a bad incentive.
the more I
That's
read David Icke, the more I believe, and listen to David Icke, the more I believe he's got it 100% right. And he has a terrible reputation. People think he's
yeah,
crazy. No, no,
exactly,
no.
exactly.
I think David Icke is a real truth sayer, and I wish people would listen to him.
The is that's the one that is. I'm still very, as you say, I'm open to every possibility, but I'm skeptic, and I try to have experience for myself. So I don't know what we'll see. They talk so much about aliens and disclosure. If until 2030 we don't see no aliens or they don't admit anything, I'll be very like, it's going to be like this forever, because there is so much.
Yeah,
It's
there
gonna go.
is.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. So, and if that happens, maybe we'll get to
It's,
the aliens that David Icke speaks of, but I don't know. But I prefer to believe there is a conspiracy, because if not, I think like people are good, but there is enough reward on being someone in power and not being so good, and we have atomic weapons, and it's just nature. Just human nature is not perfect, and we are still too much like a territorial ape, and we're going to destroy ourselves. But if there is a conspiracy, at least there is a chance for a change. So I hope there is something like crazy like that, like David says, because it's best than just to believe that humans are so imperfect that they just cannot handle themselves.
well, I believe that we are in the Great Awakening right now. I mean, I've seen incredible changes in my life and certainly in my career as a therapist. The growth of spirituality and spiritual practice in the last 20 years especially is remarkable. And even within my field of past life regression, I mean, when I first started to do and promote past life regression over 30 years ago, I was attacked verbally by people. Even colleagues in the hypnotherapy profession would say to me, "What are you doing, Burgess? Don't talk about past life regression. You lose all credibility because people don't want to believe in it." And I stuck to my guns and said, "No, no, no. For me, it's an incredible therapy." Now, the knowledge and the thirst for knowledge about past life regression is immense. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, podcasts like yours and others that I appear on. I mean, the people want more and understand it. This has happened in the last 20 years, and of course, certainly with the growth of the internet. So I believe that we are in a great awakening right now. As part of that great awakening, people are waking up to the fact that it doesn't have to be on Earth like it is. And for me, if we make our own changes inside, then that affects the world in small ways.
Yeah, it does. It does. But I think it's going to take a little bit longer. Hopefully,
Yeah,
hopefully
yeah,
we'll see
yeah.
some of that. Hopefully, I don't know, but I'm hopeful. But I'll do my best. I'm in Ireland. See, feel safe here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here we have a lot of the good thing about being here. This is a small island, one of 9 islands with 130,000 people. We have the double the cows, so we have cows and the fish and enough room here. Even if everything goes bad, if even we lose like I just say, if we go down to the Middle Ages, here we still have enough. We don't have to fight between each other. So it's nice. And it's nice to live in a smaller place because of that. And we
Yes.
are isolated, but at the same time, if we are not important, it's kind of a gift, you know. Maybe they leave us alone. If they
Yeah.
decide to make like the Third World War,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
we,
Yeah, I
so
understand that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you've got
this is good, yeah.
community there, and I think community is important and
Yeah, of course, of course.
very important. I think people are starting to understand that more and more.
Okay, I've seen you talk about doing some regressions with clients that remember having alien past lives. You're the only one so far I've seen talk about this. There's probably more, of course, but I haven't seen them yet. Is this a recent thing? How long that it started? I know it's been picking up frequency. I've seen you talk about this from a video that you made 2 years ago. Probably it has increased the frequency. What can you tell me about
Well,
this?
actually, funnily enough, the frequency has decreased in the last year, which has been odd.
Really?
Yeah, so basically, for most of my career, occasionally I'd have a client who would come to me for therapy who we'd find in regression that they'd had an alien abduction experience. So they'd been actually taken on board a spacecraft and in one or two cases experimented on, etc., which was all very traumatic for them. But obviously, again, it's about releasing the trauma. And so that was the main way in which people were experiencing alien stuff. And then I had a client a few years ago who was a Croatian gentleman, and he lived a past life as an extraterrestrial from another planet. And he was on a mission in a spacecraft which crashed on Earth, and he survived. And then in the session in hypnosis, in trance, he was terrified because he kept saying, I'm terrified down here. It's insane down here. You know, he knew what would happen. If the human beings found him, he knew that he was in big trouble, especially if the American government found him, of course. So he was terrified. And he just kept saying, what's wrong with them down here? What is wrong with them here? It doesn't have to be like this. It doesn't have to be like this. Because, of course, you know, we're all behaving, or society behaving in these brutal, ruthless ways. So he spent some time hiding from the authorities down here on Earth. And eventually his people came looking for him and found him and beamed him back onto, they came down and they found him and they took him back to his home planet, which is a little bit like E.T. Phone Home. Um, and then a couple of years ago, he and my team, I have a team of therapists who I've trained in my techniques. And when I'm very busy with clients, I ask them to see people because I can't see everybody who wants to see me. And we all found at the same time that session after session after session with our clients, they were going into past lives on other planets as extraterrestrials, as other life forms. And it was extraordinary how it happened for month after month, week after week, for many months, because it had never happened before. It was so rare that it, you know, it just hardly ever happened. And then week after week after week, it was like a trend. And we all found the same. We had past clients were on planets in other very different physical bodies. In some cases, they didn't have a physical body; they had an energy body. Um, a lot of times, they had missions to do whilst they were on their planets, so they were going around, you know, the galaxy or universe, whatever, visiting other planets. And this was actually a real shock, not just for me, but for my clients, because they didn't come to me to prove that they had a past life as an extraterrestrial. That was not the case at all. They came because they had an issue or a blockage or something they needed working on. And their subconscious took them into these past lives on other planets. And what it did, first of all, it would help to heal the problem that they came with, because it was a release of an energy that was blocking them. Because some cases there's something traumatic had happened on their home planets. Like I had one client her home planet was attacked by other extraterrestrials and destroyed, and their society was destroyed, and she managed to escape on a spaceship, and she was terrified. So we had to release that trauma. In other cases, it was as though by reconnecting with this higher energy, because they're home beings, as I call them, are vibrating at a higher energetic rate, they were clearing blocks that were holding them back in their present lifetime. And going on from that, they were I started to read up about the subject because I'd never really looked at it before until a couple of years ago, especially reading Dolores Cannon. Because Dolores Cannon, like me, she was a standard past life regression therapist. And then one day, so many of her clients found that they were going back into past lives on other planets, just like me. And this term of starseed was created. And it appears, and this is my belief now, based on the number of clients who had these experiences, that they are starseeds, that they've come down onto planet Earth at this time in a human form in order to help to raise the vibrations of the Earth, because we need it now more than ever before. Everything is more chaotic than it ever was before and more serious. So it's as if they are bringing down a higher energy. And just by being a starseed, it's almost like they are a candle that is being lit on Earth. So there are many more candles being lit around the Earth now, which is shining a light and bringing the vibrational rate up. And that's just my belief on it. But having read around the subject a bit, it appears that other therapists, other regression people are saying the same. Um,
Is Sorry, are you finished? I'm
please,
sorry.
please.
These clients, do they normally have, like, do they recall this past life as an alien and other human lives, or just like alien life and then this human life, or they
Both,
like change
both.
between human life and alien life and human
Yeah.
life?
5 sessions with this type of client. We may only do 1 session where they connect as an extraterrestrial, and the other 4 are to past lives on Earth. Um,
Okay.
so they don't usually have several past lives as extraterrestrials. 1 or 2 do. 1 or 2 will have past lives on several different planets, but that's very unusual. My experience is that usually we do 1 session where they connect to being an extraterrestrial, and then it's almost like they're bringing this knowledge that they have a higher energy. And in some cases, after the sessions, they start to get downloads from their home beings. They can actually feel, they may be in bed on a night and they start to feel it's as if they're downloading something energetically. And then they get a sense, oh, it's coming from someplace else. They don't know what the download is, but they know something is going on. And it also gives them a sense of confidence and strength that here on planet Earth in a human body where it is so difficult, they have some help energetically coming from their home beings, because it's almost as if once you reconnect with them, you can bring that energy, you can reconnect to their energy, which is a higher energy than ours is, and help just to be in a better space here on Earth in this lifetime.
Do you understand the order of reincarnations? Is like alien, human, 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 or just human, alien, alien, human? Normally, it's like they
It's
change, right?
That's a good question, actually, Edgar. I've never asked the question. I've never tried to find out how far back the extraterrestrial ones are. My sense is that they will be before the human past lives. That would be my sense. It's as if they have come down here to learn things and to become more used to being here on Earth. Um, that would be my sense, but I can't say for sure.
From what I don't know, you probably read about UFO folklore, what's around. Do you ever found like some similarities between like the species that people normally talk about in terms of aliens and the past lives that people remember?
Yeah, not so much. I mean, I have some clients who one client last year who was a female lady who felt she was a blue alien from a blue planet, and I know there are supposed to be aliens called blues, but it's as though they don't have a title for themselves. That's certainly one client who um, felt she was from a planet that had a sort of a lion-headed sort of people. Lyra, I think that's what it's supposed to
Lyras,
be called.
Lyrans, I think Lyrans, yeah.
So she certainly felt that that was the case. Occasionally, I get somebody who feels they might be an Arcturian, but as a rule, they don't get a name for themselves. They're just in the body or in the energy of that
Exactly.
particular species or that particular extraterrestrial.
The names that they have probably are given by humans, and when if you are there, you probably don't think of yourself like that, right? So,
That's the
so
thing. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. I mean, some people, I certainly had some people who believe that they're from the Pleiades and they are
Mhm.
Pleiadians, but how much of that they've heard somewhere and they've brought it into the session, it's hard
Exactly.
to say.
Have you ever read about like different areas where people go out of body or even psychedelic trips and stuff, and you found like a relationship or connections between your work and that type of material or no? Because I've read a few things in different areas, but similar like this, and I've seen some similarities. So I guess maybe have you seen something that comes to mind?
Not particularly. Um, Not really. I think my work is actually more grounded than that, really. I mean, I know for people who don't know much about this, they'll probably think it's all woo-woo. But actually, the the regression experience is a very simple, basic experience, where the client is just going back into the past to relive stuff from the past that's holding them back now. And it tends not to be too sort of highfalutin or too psychedelic, you could say. It's actually very grounded.
No, but the only things that you probably see similar most commonly will be like the near-death experience.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
if
yeah.
you take them to the death, you'll see like
So, yeah,
some relatives there or some
that's right.
lights.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, they'll offer it because obviously, yeah, we go into spirit, we go through the death experience in a past life, we go into spirit, and a lot of people report the same sort of things, loving loved ones coming to them, other souls coming to them, feeling very peaceful, often experiencing very beautiful visual experiences as well. So yes, there can be similarities between near-death experience reports and what people experience in spirit in a regression session. Yes.
But you don't usually take them further, right? Much further. The soul probably doesn't need to.
Yeah, I
She
mean,
already.
well, there is a school of therapy regression where you go in between lives, and I mean, Doctor Michael Newton, who of course wrote Journey of
I know, I
Souls, a
know.
great book, Journey of Souls, and all of his work is was in between lives, um, and that can be okay. For me, though, that's mainly just interesting. It isn't
Hmm.
necessarily therapeutic. Um, so yes, there can be some therapy from it, but for me, I'm a therapist who wants my client to heal their issues, to help them heal their issues. So that's my main process. Into the trauma, release the trauma. If it's a death trauma, to release it, to go into spirit and feel that it's cleared and the client gets better. Sometimes we can spend a bit more time in spirit, but for me, it isn't always that it isn't always that important or therapeutic to do that.
I've heard you talk about like, for instance, a surrogate therapy session that where a person had a dog, right? And she relived experiences with that dog in a earlier life. What's your belief? Do animals at least like dogs have a soul like us, or do anyone had like a experience where this person was a dog in one life and like another person in another life? Do you ever?
Occasionally, first of all, occasionally I've had clients who have had past lives as animals. Now, there is a school of thought that once you reincarnate as a human being, you can't go back into animal form, but I don't agree with that. I've had clients who, and it doesn't happen very often. It's quite unusual, but it does happen. A client who relives a past life as an animal, and of course, the animal, there's going to be some trauma in its life, and it comes through into this lifetime. But it isn't for a client to explore that. It isn't just that their issue is caused by an animal past life. I remember one lady who came years ago, or again, I wrote about her in The Adventures of a Hypnotherapist, the new book, and she had, I think it was allergies, severe allergies. And I think there were about 14 past lives that we had to work in. I think 3 of them were animal past lives, but 11 were human past lives. So, the animal past lives were interspersed with the part of the overall trauma. So occasionally people do live animal past lives. Um, from the surrogate perspective, now that's very exciting because surrogate therapy means that we can do regression for one person, on one person, for somebody else who they are close to. This we're still me and my team are still experimenting with this because it's very new. And this was started by a colleague who her new dog was having lots of problems. And she asked me, could you regress me for the dog? And I said, I don't know, we'll try it. And we did it, and she explored some of the dog's past lives, and the dog got better and better and better. The dog wasn't in the sessions, wasn't listening to what she was saying. It was in a different part of the house. So it can't be placebo. It can't be, the dog
Uh-huh,
heard
uh-huh,
a
uh-huh.
past life being discussed and she got better. And so I've certainly started doing this quite a lot nowadays with clients who have a loved one who has an issue and either is unable to work on the issue or refuses to do so. And it's very, very effective. In most cases, it helps that person to get better. Quite remarkable.
That's very interesting also.
And very exciting.
Listen,
You can imagine
exactly.
somebody has a newborn baby and the baby has some form of illness, we can't regress a baby, but mummy who loves the baby can perhaps regress back into the baby's past lives in order to heal the baby's issues. I certainly have a client in the States, a client in California who has two sons who are in the early 20s, who have had a lot of emotional and personal issues, and she's done a lot of, um, surrogate regression for them, going back into their past lives, and they have improved out of all proportion. They have got so much better in themselves, and she hasn't told them. They don't even know it's going on. But we're obviously doing it we're not doing it to manipulate anybody, that's not right. We're only doing this if somebody is trying to help a loved one to get better. I mean, I don't think it will work for could we do surrogate regression to make President Trump change? That's ridiculous. No, that's not what this is about. That's all silliness. This is
Maybe if you can, if Ivana comes there, maybe
maybe,
because
that's the
there's a
thing.
connection. There's a
Because
connection,
there's a
right?
connection, and, this goes all connects to entanglement theory, entanglement theory in quantum physics. If you take an atom or I think it's an atom and split it into 2, and take those 2 elements 10,000 miles apart, and you stimulate this one at exactly the same time as you stimulate this one reacts. So, nobody understands how this works, but I think the surrogate regression is part of entanglement theory. I think that explains it. We don't need to know how it works. I just know that it does work.
Probably you cannot use it for like how you say hurt someone because
It's not
this
hurting.
seems
No,
to be
absolutely.
some. No, no, it has to be like a good intention
I think this,
behind it,
if it's
right?
2 people who are very closely connected, or two energies, 2 souls who are closely connected, and there's a loving connection there, I think then it works very, very well. But it's
Well,
not,
Steve,
I don't think we could use it to manipulate it.
No, I think there must be some level of permission, I guess,
Yeah,
from the soul, from
yeah,
what I've read at
I,
least.
I think so. Yeah.
Listen, Steve, thank you very much for this conversation here. I really enjoyed it. It was a pleasure and a surprise that you accepted. Thank you very much.
No, my pleasure. Been nice to talk, and I'm always very
um,
happy to share my, my stuff, the stuff that I do, the stuff that I love to do.
I see that you do, because you don't even know me from nowhere. I'm just starting, and you accept my invitation, and I just say I can only thank you very much for that. Where do people can find you
My
if they
website
want?
is steveburgesshypnosis.com, steveburgesshypnosis.com. That my YouTube channel is Hypno for All, HYPN, HYPNO, the number 4 ALL, Hypno for All. But that can be reached through my website, Steve Burgess Hypnosis. And on Hypno for All, I've got several interviews with some of my team members, and also 26 free hypnotherapy recordings for people to listen to at home for free that can help with anxiety, with weight loss, with irritable bowel syndrome, with all sorts of things, with physical issues. They're not regression recordings. I believe regression should be done one-to-one. Um, my Facebook page is The Power of Past Life Regression, and I put a lot of my podcasts and interviews on there. I am also on Instagram. I think it's at Steve Burgess Hypnotherapy, although I don't understand Instagram, so but I am on there at times. And my books are all available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, all the major booksellers. My first two books are available as audiobooks as well, on Audible and again through Amazon. Famous Past Lives and The Power of Past Life Regression. I'm in the process of recording the new book, The Adventures of a Hypnotherapist, at the moment. So hopefully that
Yeah,
was an audiobook.
that's how I heard your books.
Yeah. And
Okay,
people say
and
the
I'll try
nicest
to
things, saying that, it's just great that I'm recording them myself,
exactly, yeah,
that I haven't
exactly,
paid
exactly.
somebody to do it. Well, that wouldn't be right. I love the recording process, and it's my voice which people need to hear. So yeah, I'm happy that people say the nicest things about my voice. I don't know why. I just find I'm very boring, but people say they love it. So anyway.
Uh, I'll try to put at least the main links down below so people can find you through this podcast. Okay, so thank you very much.